1003 and 25 FB 1002. Counsel, please state your appearances for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Katie Rosmarski for the people.
Good afternoon, may it please this honorable court. Karin Johnson on behalf of Miss Vincent, who's standing in my immediate right.
All right, state your name, please. All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, date and time set for preliminary examination. Are the parties ready to proceed?
People are, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness.
Your Honor, may I place some preliminary items on the record? Thank you very much. Court having called all three cases, my assumption is that the court is comfortable with us running all three prelims together as they're sort of part and parcel of the same investigation.
My understanding is that that's what we were going to do. I don't know, Mr. Johnson, did you have any objection to that? I thought we dealt with it the last.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, very
Wonderful.
good. That's fine.
Thank you, Judge. Also placing the court and counsel on notice that we do not intend any longer to proceed on with count 4 RNC of a motor vehicle on file number 25 FB 1002. Also would like to place the court and counsel on notice that we will likely be seeking to add a count 11 of armed robbery, which is MCL 50.529, and that would be as to file 25 F3 0011. That is the homicide file, and that would be to comport with the anticipated testimony and proofs, and also to comport with the charges that were bound over for the two co-defendants in this matter.
Gotcha. You said a count 5?
11, I think.
Well, no, that was count 11, but previous to that, you said you don't intend to proceed on count 5?
Count 4, Judge.
Okay, count
I
4.
said 5, I misspoke. Apologies.
Yeah, I don't have a count 5, so. All right.
And whenever the court is ready for me to proceed, I do have, I believe, several stipulations.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Thank you. My understanding is that counsel is willing to stipulate for purposes of preliminary examination, and specifically this would pertain itself to counts 2 and 3 in that same file, 25 FB-1002. That defendant does have a conviction for controlled substance possession of cocaine, heroin, or another narcotic, less than 25 grams. That actually is a conviction date of January 19th, 2017, and it comes from Wayne County.
2017.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that a correct statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
And Your Honor, is further my understanding that counsel is willing to stipulate to the admission of the autopsy reports in this matter. I have marked them as people's proposed exhibits 1 and 2. Number 1 is the autopsy report for Jennifer Bernhardt, and number 2 is the autopsy report for Stevie Smith.
Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right. So without further ado, I'll just do this. I will, those being marked, I will admit by stipulating the exhibits 1 and 2.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I believe that's all that preliminary place on the record.
Anything preliminarily for defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very good. You can call your first witness.
Thank you, Judge. Call Jeffrey Bernhardt. Raise your right hand.
State and spell your name out.
Jeffrey Allen Bernhardt, K-E-Y-A-L-A-N. B as in boy, E-R-N-H-A-R-D.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bernhardt, good afternoon. Do you remember January 1st? Do you remember how you spent that day?
Yes.
Where did you spend that day?
At our home,
What is that address?
2053 Albert Bend Road, Whitmore Lake, Michigan, 48189.
That here in Washtenaw County.
Correct.
Who did you spend that day with?
So at home was my wife, my daughter, my foster daughter, and my father-in-law, the two of us.
So let's run through their names if we could.
My wife's name is Jennifer Bernhardt. Daughter's name is Elizabeth. Foster daughter is True Vincent. Stevie Smith.
On that date, how old were Olivia and True?
Olivia was 9 at the time. True was 4.
What did you guys do that day?
So that was New Year's Day. We were basically taking a quiet day at home. We had family over the night before on New Year's Eve. Like 15 or 20 people in our home, had dinner, spent the time with family. So it was a lot of work preparing for that day and up to that. So we just decided to have a quiet day at home, cleaning up after the night before, and didn't do much that was significant outside of just being at home.
You recognize, sir, that you were here to talk about a very significant incident that happened that day, correct?
Right.
Excuse me one moment, counsel.
Yes.
So could you move them from counsel to prosecutor? You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. What time of day did that incident take place?
As I recall, it was early evening. Pretty sure it was after dinner. We had leftovers, but it was before the girls started their bedtime routine.
So sometime after dinner, but before bedtime.
Yes.
Okay. And being that time of year, I would imagine it was dark outside.
Yes.
What did you do after dinner?
So, after dinner, what I recall, the girls were just playing. We cleaned up after dinner. And, I went upstairs to do something. I don't remember exactly what. It wasn't anything that was significant enough to remember.
And did something catch your attention?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I was in our bedroom, and our bedroom is over the garage. And in our bedroom that's attached to the bathroom that's attached to our bedroom, there's a window that overlooks the driveway. I had heard the noise outside, so I went into the bathroom, looked out the window, and I saw a car outside in our driveway that I didn't recognize.
Can you describe the car at all? Do you recall it at all?
I didn't really get a good look looking down from above. Didn't get a really good look at it.
Do you remember what the sound was that caught your attention?
No, it was, it was obviously the car. Whether it was a car door or something like that, but I did hear something in the driveway.
So you look down, you see this car that you don't recognize. What did you do next?
So I left the bathroom, walked down the hall and walked down the stairs. And my wife was right at the bottom of the stairs near our front entrance. And I told her, I said, there's somebody in our house. And we live on a private road in cul-de-sac, so it's not too often we get cars. However, her response to me was that it's likely an Amazon delivery because we still had a few things we had ordered for Christmas that hadn't arrived yet, even though it was past Christmas. So it just made sense that it was an Amazon delivery. And typically in the evenings, it was from what we noticed, the Amazon trucks deliver during the day, and then they typically have private individuals deliver. So if there was a car or a private vehicle, it made sense that it was an Amazon delivery.
So what did you do at that point?
So that just made sense to me. So I told my wife, I said, okay, I'll go get it. And I walked through our kitchen towards the garage door. Typically, the Amazon delivery, they drop something off like right in our garage. So my intention was to go get the package and go through the garage.
And did you make it all the way to the door?
No.
Did something happen?
Yeah, so at that moment, I walked through the kitchen, and before I was even able to put my shoes on to walk outside, I heard, excuse me, I heard commotion, some noises, coming from the front door area. And then I heard, some screams.
Can you describe for us what commotion and noises you heard coming from the front door area?
So I heard some, like, what I describe as like some thuds or some banging. And then, like I said, quickly after that, I heard screams from little girls and my wife.
Can you describe those screams?
Sure. The screams from the girls didn't, we have, having two girls in the house playing, they oftentimes, are loud and screaming, so that didn't really catch me off guard. But at the same time, my wife screamed, and her scream distinctly, and I can hear it in my head right now, was a scream of horror and fear. And I immediately knew that there was something seriously wrong.
Was anybody saying any words?
So when I heard the scream, I immediately turned around and walked back into the kitchen and saw 3 individuals in the house with weapons, and they were, yelling, get down, the typical things that you would think that people breaking into your home with weapons would say, telling them to be quiet, trying to get control of the situation.
Can you describe those individuals that you saw?
So initially, as I walked to the kitchen and they were in the living room, it was 3 African Americans, 2 male and 1 female.
Did you know any of them?
So with, before I even saw their faces, I knew that this was, I didn't know the 2 males, but I knew the female being Siobhan Vincent.
How did you know that?
So we were made aware of threats through family court as being her foster parents, that she made threats that she would come to our house and take her daughter. So so that was in the back of my mind, that it was actually discussed just a few weeks prior to that in family court. And so that was in our mind that there was that threat. So just when I saw 3 individuals breaking in their homes with guns, I knew instantly it was her.
And when you turned around and saw them, did that confirm what you had suspected?
Yes.
That individual, Siobhan Vincent, the mother of True, your foster daughter, is she here in court today?
Yes.
Can you point please to where she's sitting and tell us what she's wearing?
She's wearing, sorry, my color vision, but she's wearing a shirt with a white undershirt underneath. She's sitting at the table.
Thank you.
Is she seated to your right or left at the table?
She's seated to my left.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Thank you. Your Honor, will the record reflect that the witnesses both pointed to and identified the defendant?
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
Thank you. You said you saw these three individuals and you also saw weapons.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I saw Miss Vincent holding what looked, I'm not a weapons expert, but what looked like it was a handgun. I would describe it as something similar to a 9mm. The other two individuals looked what I would describe as longer guns. Don't know what type.
What were they doing with those guns?
So, so that happened. I mean, the first interaction was them just trying to come in and control the situation. And I mean, the first thing that happened was Miss Vincent turned towards me, with her gun pointed, and told me to sit down in the corner of the kitchen, right around on the other side of the a refrigerator. And so I was the first one to kind of told to sit down, and she quickly pointed the gun towards my wife and told my wife to come and sit next to me. And then, from what I could see, the other two defendants were kind of getting control of the girls. My father-in-law was in our den, which is a small room right by the front door. And at some point, they brought him out into the kitchen and had him lay down.
Lay down how?
I didn't see necessarily how they had to lay down.
Did you hear?
Yeah, I can hear them kind of giving him orders to get, to get over here and lay down.
Okay.
Um,
And what about the girls? Were you aware at that point of where they were?
Yeah, they were both in the living room. And for context, our house has an open floor plan, so the kitchen, dining room, and living room are all open from one end to the other.
What happens after the defendant has ordered both you and your wife to sit down in the kitchen by the fridge at gunpoint?
Well, she stood very close to us, leaning against our stove, and kind of took control of the whole situation from there, and stayed there pretty much the whole time, and had in a very aggressive way had conversations with us, and yelling at us and accusing us of things, and doing several things throughout the night. She was also, it was very clear that she she wanted to be in charge, and she was in charge of the two other defendants.
That's just speculation, yeah.
Sustained.
Can you tell us what she was saying to the other two?
She was saying things like, she told them to get my father-in-law and bring him in the kitchen. There were a few things she said that I didn't necessarily hear, but I remember her being upset with one of them doing something that she didn't like, and she kind of corrected them, or and things like that, telling them to go upstairs, things like
Do you know why she told them to go upstairs?
no.
Okay.
And she also, at the end of the event, there were things like my dog was right next to me, because he was a puppy and he was very afraid, and she ordered them to come and grab the dog and take him outside. She also, towards the end, brought her daughter and told them to bring her outside, and she had to come get her coat and actually walk across us to get her coat. And she ordered the two men to do those things.
Do you remember anything else she might have ordered them to do?
Not what I recall.
Okay. I think you also said she was yelling at you and your wife, maybe accusing you of things. Did I hear that right? Yes. Can you tell us the things that she was saying that you remember?
So specifically, she was focused on one particular accusation related, and she was focused on my wife, accusing her of not letting True believe in God, and basically calling us evil and demonic and things like that, because we wouldn't let her believe in God. And just calling us evil people, that we were a part of the system, and that that we all took her daughter, and things of that nature.
Is that true that you didn't let True believe in God?
Absolutely not. The irony of it is it's the opposite, because my father-in-law is an ordained pastor. My wife, up until she became a full-time mother, she also was an ordained minister of the Assemblies of God. We attend church every Sunday morning and every Wednesday night. We brought full girls to church. We were involved in kids' church and Sunday school. Every night, part of our bedtime routine is we would sit down and read the Bible and read one or two books with each girl before we went to bed. And then even for True, even tucking her into bed at night, she slept on a loft bed, and I would, either my wife or I would stand there and we would sing Christian songs to her to help her go to sleep.
How were you and your wife responding to this assault, to being yelled at and gun pointed at you and accused of things?
Judge, here says what the wife said.
Judge, any of it would be an excited utterance, present sense impression. He's there just asking for how they responded.
Overruled.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, it was very, very interesting. I sat there and I remember looking, I was right in front of the garage door, and I remember focusing on the hinge of the door, and I thought to myself, and I was praying, and I thought to myself, why am I not afraid? And I was kind of surprised at the fact that I wasn't obviously I was afraid, but I wasn't terrified and afraid like you would think. And I attribute that to my faith in God, and that He was helping both of us, all of us that night. But I tried to stay relatively calm, and I noticed my wife, some of the responses that she was saying. We were trying to, in a calm way, try to de-escalate the situation and try to answer the accusations and explain some of the things that she was saying to us, that she was obviously misunderstanding something or believed something that wasn't true. And I was trying to cooperate with some of her demands related to the money and just trying to calm the situation down and hoping that she would just leave. And my wife, my wife is probably one of the most non-confrontational people that I've ever known. She doesn't like conflict, even if it's something simple. But she too tried to remain calm and answer in a way that she was trying to calm Miss Vincent down and respond, cooperatively, as to not aggravate or provoke in a calm demeanor.
Did any of that work?
It seemed to agitate even more. Anytime we would say anything, try to explain, it made Miss Vincent even more upset and more aggressive.
Did she at any point talk to you about some kind of a plan?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the conversation, she was making these assertions about, in a very aggressive way, how she would use words like, I'm a gangster and I've planned this all out. And she stated things like, I don't care if I spend the rest of my life in jail. I still have the ability to harm you, even behind bars. Made statements like that, and it was very clear that she wanted that she was in charge and that she wanted us.
Speculation.
I'm going to overrule that one. I think he's been enough foundation as to what his conclusion may be. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was clear to me that she wanted us to believe that she had power over us, and that she was not just some person who just did this on a whim, that she had been planning it, and that everything that she was doing was orchestrated in a way, and in a way that seemed like she was trying to intimidate us further and make us afraid.
I believe I heard you testify a moment ago that at some point she also brought up money. Did I hear that right?
Right.
Tell us about that.
So at one point, after getting through the conversation, we call it a conversation, but getting through a lot of the accusations and all that, she turned and said, "Where do you keep the money?" And my response was that where I was sitting was, as I mentioned, was right in front of the garage, the door out to the garage, and on the wall I keep my keys and my wallet right by the door. And so I told her, I said, well, my wallet's right there. I think I have a couple $100 in it. So please, take that. And mentioned, we just had Christmas, so probably the most expensive gift we got for the girls or for my daughter was a Nintendo Switch, which was like $300 or $400. So I said, I mentioned that. I was like, there's a Nintendo Switch, you can take that. And she wasn't interested in that. And I think even one of the other defendants kind of laughed it off, like that was, they didn't want anything to do with that. That wasn't, real money. So she said, where's the other money? And I I mean, we don't have a safe with thousands of dollars in it in our house, so I said it's in the bank and you know, somehow the conversation turned to how can we get that money? And I said something, I said I have a Venmo app, but I believe that the limit for transfer is like $500, something like that. And I said something along the lines that, you know, even if I were to go down to the bank to try to get out a large sum of money, it would, from my understanding, it would be a process. It wouldn't just be them handing me a lot of money. It's a large amount, so I was trying to say, I don't know what you want me to do per se. And so at that point, she took my wallet and the credit cards, and she already had my phone. She took all of our phones when she had us sit down. And so she stood there with the gun in one hand, my phone in the other hand, and she demanded me to give her my bank password. So she stood there for however long it took, and I found out later she transferred a total of $6,000 out of my account in two transfers, one for $5,000, for $1,000.
Through the use of a particular app?
Yeah, it was through Zelle, because I guess, which I didn't know, that Zelle can have a higher amount to transfer.
At some point, did you get your wallet or did she get your wallet?
Yeah, she took my wallet and took the credit cards out of my wallet.
If you said that already and I missed it, I apologize. So you watched her take your wallet from the shelf and take the credit cards out. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I am showing you two pictures. They are marked as people's proposed exhibits 3 and 4. Are they pictures of things that you recognize?
Yes,
What are they pictures of?
there are pictures of credit cards that belong to the community.
Are those the credit cards that you just referenced that were taken by the defendant from your wallet that day?
Yes,
And those are fair and accurate representations of what those cards look like?
yes.
Thank you. May I approach again, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Bernhardt, I'm now showing you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit 5. That's also a picture, correct?
Correct.
What is that a picture of?
Picture of some jewelry and watch.
Do you recognize that jewelry and watch?
Yes, the jewelry, the earrings are pictures of earrings that my wife had and wore. The watch is the watch that was mine, that was upstairs in our bedroom.
Were you aware of those? Start that. Is that picture a fair and accurate representation of those items that you just described to us?
Yes,
Okay. Were you aware of any items being taken from the upstairs of your home that day, that night?
at that point, I was not aware.
Okay. Did you give permission for anybody to take any of those things?
No.
Did anybody else in your presence give permission for those items to be taken? What happens after the defendant has taken your credit cards, has your phone, and makes $6,000 worth of a financial transfer?
So, so there was a couple things that happened during that. One of which, going back to the response that I made as far as how we responded during that time, there was something that I said trying to answer a question or trying to de-escalate, where I must have said something that was wrong or that made someone upset, but the first violent act was I was hit the forehead right on my eyebrow with what I believe was the butt of a weapon.
Who did that to you?
I believe it was Miss Vincent.
And I'm sorry, when in that process did that take place? At some point when you were sort of,
That was first kind of early on. The one thing about this whole night is I kept thinking to myself, why are they still here? The amount of time that they spent in our home seemed like a very long time for somebody just coming in, to take their daughter. And I kept thinking, why are they here? So this felt like a very long time. But that first initial act of violence was the first thing that happened. So that was probably during the time when she was making the accusations, and I was trying to answer and explain why she may have felt or thought that we were keeping her daughter from believing in God, which was completely not true. And I was trying to explain that. And at that point, I was struck in the face. It broke my glasses, and it hurt really bad. Then some time passed, and it was after, I believe it was after the conversation about the money. Again, I must have said something that was a trigger or made her upset. But I was shot in the chest, and on the left side of the chest. And because I was seated, I think, I'm not a forensics expert or anything, but I think because of the angle where I was seated, probably helped save my life. And so I was shot. The angle kind of went in my chest and bounced off a few ribs. 3 ribs were broken. My spleen was damaged. And I remember feeling, I remember feeling the bullet inside. I don't know anything about bullets, but I know bullets when they hit, they're made to kind of fracture and kind of do more damage. I could feel that literally, where it felt like fireworks were going off on the inside of me. And I still have bullet fragments in my back that I could feel. So that was the first shot. And amazingly enough, I didn't, I was still able to sit there. It hurt, like you would not imagine, but I still sat there and I still tried to calm things down and be engaged at that point. And then it was, I think they had already taken True outside and the dog. And so True had to get her coat and came up, walked across us. She actually wanted to give us my wife and I hug.
Did she get to do that?
No. And the other thing that made Miss Vincent very upset was to refer to us as mommy and daddy. And so that made her more upset when she said that, and she wanted to give us a hug, but they quickly, she ordered one of the men to basically take her and get her outside. And that's what they did, got her coat and brought her outside.
Is that before or after you were shot?
That was before.
One of those men was ordered by the defendant to take True and the dog outside?
Yeah, at two different times. I mean, the dog was the first thing because, like I mentioned earlier, the dog was scared. He was a puppy. He was only a few months old, so he was literally next to my right leg as I was sitting there. And I was trying to console the dog because I was thinking if the dog made any noise or growled or seemed vicious at all or barked, that they would just shoot the dog in front of the girls. And those girls, they love the dog. So I was trying to keep that from happening. So I had my right hand on the dog trying to console the dog and pet him. And quickly she got nervous about that, the fact, if I would possibly do something with the dog. So, she said, "What are you doing with the dog?" And I tried to explain. And then she said she didn't like that. So then she ordered one of the men to come and get the dog. And I asked, I said, "Can I put the dog in?" There was our laundry room was right next to where I was sitting. So I was like, "Can I just put the dog in the laundry room and close the door?" And she said, "No." So they took the dog and brought the dog outside.
Who shot me?
Who shot him?
Who shot you?
Oh, who shot me? Miss Vincent.
You've told us that True was taken outside before that and the dog. What about Libby?
So Libby, my daughter, was initially in the living room. And Miss Vincent ordered her short, the time frame, not sure exactly how long, but it was not too long after we were sitting down. So I think, from what Libby told me initially, she was hiding, or she was crouched down by the end of the couch. So Miss Vincent ordered her into the kitchen and told her to stand on the other side of her. And so at that point, when she came, she had clear view, probably standing about 7 feet from us, my wife and I, just on the other side of Miss Vincent, and told Libby to stand there and not to move. And she stayed there the rest of the night.
So Libby was standing there when you got hit in the head with the butt of a gun?
Yes,
Libby was standing there when you got shot the first time?
yes.
How close was the defendant to you when she shot you the first time?
So she was probably about, so I was sitting next, I was sitting, my wife was sitting just to my left about a foot from me. And then Miss Vincent was probably a foot or two from her. So, I mean, that's, I'd say 3 to 4 feet from me.
Did she say anything to you before or when she was shooting?
Now, the only thing I remember about being shot in the head was she didn't say anything to me, but the last thing I remember right before that happened was my wife in the calm, but you could tell that there was fear in her voice, she said, "Please, Siobhan, don't do anything you regret." And that just triggered Siobhan. And she got very angry. She said something along the lines, "I'll show you what I'll regret." And then, from what I remember, right after that is when I was shot in the head.
Is that the last thing you heard your wife say?
Yes.
What happened after you got shot in the head?
So I was shot in the right side of my head, right in the forehead. There's a plate right in my forehead. And as I said, probably the angle, I believe that, and I've said this publicly, I believe that God was with me that day. But the angle, it went through my forehead, through my right eye, down to the top of the inside of my mouth. And I just recently, actually, about a month and a half ago, had 2 surgeries to remove bullet fragments from under my tongue because they were causing so much pain and I couldn't barely eat. So the angle of the gun or the bullet, I think that was part of the reason my life was spared. I remember being aware of the fact that I was shot in the head. I remember the sensation of blood, and I describe it like a river of hot, like fluid flowing from my head. And I fell forward, and I remember the last thing, I was aware of being shot in the head, and the first thing I thought was, when you're shot in the head, you die. So I was in my mind thinking that I'm about to die. And I laid down, and the thing I said, "God, help me." And what I was asking for was, "God, help me go through whatever transition, death, whatever that looks like." I wasn't afraid of dying because I believe in God and that I could go to be with Him, but I didn't know what that transition was like. So I prayed that prayer, and then I passed out. And then at some point, I believe it, somewhere around 15 minutes, somehow I gained consciousness again. And I remember the first thing that I thought was, I didn't have that sensation of that blood flowing from my head. So I thought, maybe I'm not going to die. And so I sat up and I found some strength we have a bench right where the shoes are. And so I found some strength to sit up on the bench. And I knew that they had taken our phones. I didn't know if they were still in the house or not. But the first thing I thought was, I have to get to the neighbor's house and get help. So I sat there and I was putting my shoes on, and the thing, probably one of the hardest things is, as I sat there as I was putting my shoes on, I looked over and saw my wife. And I knew the moment I saw her, she was dead. She was sitting there. She wasn't even laying down. She was sitting there, and her head was hanging down, and I just literally saw blood flowing from her chin. That's an image that will stay with me the rest of my life. But I put my shoes on and I opened the garage door and I hesitated and I said, Lord, please don't let them be in the driveway. And I opened it, I hit the button to open the garage door and walked out the garage. They were already gone. And I walked over to my neighbor's house. And my first neighbor wasn't home. And so I ended up having to walk down the street to our other neighbor's house. And fortunately, they were home and they were amazing. They brought me in, sat me down and called 911. And an officer from Northfield Township Police Department was the first one to show up. And he was amazing. All the officers of both Northfield and the sheriff, the county sheriff's office have been amazing through this. But you know, he took some information about. He was asking my neighbor some questions as well. Obviously, I was sitting there bleeding and hurt, but I was still conscious. I was still able to answer questions. And I remember after him asking my name, like who was in the house and things like that. I remember him saying, he said, okay, and he put his arm on my shoulder to kind of comfort me. And he said, okay, I'm not going to ask you any more questions. And we were still waiting for the ambulance to show up. And I remember saying, that's okay. If there's anything you need, I remember what happened. And he said, do you remember who did this to you? And I said, yes. And I gave him Miss Vincent's name and even spelled it for him. And then the ambulance came and took me to the hospital.
Did you see anyone else in the house before you left? No, just your wife as you described.
Yeah.
Okay. So Libby was not there anymore as far as you could see.
No.
Did the defendant have permission to be in your home that night?
No.
Did the defendant have permission and authority to take True from your home?
No.
Did the defendant have permission and authority to take your daughter, Olivia, from your home?
No.
And for clarification, the dog was not there either.
No.
Dog's name?
Snippers.
Mr. Bernhardt, thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. Obviously, Ms. Vincent's attorney has the right to ask questions as well. Your Honor, nothing further at this time. However, I do move to admit people's proposed 3, 4, and 5.
Any objection of what, dear?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibits 3, 4, and 5 are admitted.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, did you need a break for a moment, or
No, I'm okay.
you're okay? Okay, if you need a break, that's not a problem, but you're good to go? Okay.
I have cans of sparkling water. Could I offer that?
That sounds kind of fancy.
It's a little fancy.
We just drink water around
I
here.
have.
We're kind of the out county. We don't have sparkling stuff. They do that on the other side of 23.
That helps.
That's just my thought, but yes, if he wanted some, that's fine.
Wonderful.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Bernhardt, the neighbor's house that you went to, that was Mr. Ali Wright?
Right.
When you got there, Mr. Ali Wright asked who shot you, correct?
He asked me,
Yep.
I do not recall that.
Okay. You don't recall him asking. So do you recall not being able to identify to Mr. Wright who shot you when he asked?
I do not remember that conversation. No.
This is Mr. Ali Wright that I believe works, has a security company, correct?
No. Ali Wright is actually works for the public defender's office.
Okay.
He's a public defender.
I believe he works at the public defender's office. Secondly, you weren't at the front door when these individuals came in, correct? So you don't know who opened the door, correct? And you don't know if these individuals forced their way in the home or not, correct?
From the sound that I heard, even before the screams, it was very clear to me that somebody was entering forcefully into the home.
From the sound that you heard, it was very clear to you that somebody was entering the home forcefully. Do you remember being interviewed by the police and telling the police that you were unsure if they forced entry to the home or if the door was left open?
Well, I think that
So that's not my question. My question to you is, do you remember telling the police that or not?
I didn't.
Okay, so you don't remember if Mr. Ali Wright asked you who shot you in the house. And you don't remember telling the police you're unsure if the individuals forced their way into the home or not. Is that correct? Saw some photographs of some jewelry that was, I presume, to be upstairs in a bedroom. Miss Vincent never went upstairs, correct?
Correct. That I'll say this. I did not see her go upstairs. However, I was unconscious, so I don't know where she went, where she didn't go in the house after that.
Okay, that's fair. Now, you were made aware of some complaints that Miss Vincent had regarding her daughter, correct?
Correct.
You testified that one of the complaints was her daughter not being allowed to believe in God. Where you also told Miss Vincent was making complaints about her daughter being physically and sexually abused at your house.
I did not become aware of the details of those complaints until after this event.
Okay, but you were aware of those complaints when the prosecutor asked you about the threats that were made and what you were told from the family court, correct?
You repeat that?
When the prosecutor asked you about the complaints and threats that were made in family court, and you told her about Miss Vincent's complaint about True not being allowed to believe in God, you remember that? You were aware of the accusation of physical and sexual abuse then, right? When you just testified here for the government.
So I was not aware of any details of any sort of accusations of abuse that we were towards us, towards her daughter. If My testimony is this.
Well, sir, we'll figure out what your testimony is. My question to you is, just less than an hour ago, when you were asked about the complaints made regarding the care of True Vincent, did you or did you not know that Siobhan had made complaints about physical or sexual abuse?
No, not in depth, no. Sexual abuse, absolutely not. I didn't know that that was a complaint.
Okay. You didn't know or you didn't know in depth?
I did not, the sexual, I did not know at all until after all of this happened, when CPS did their investigation.
But you knew when you walked in here today to testify.
So we can be clear, the question was, how did he know it was Miss Vincent? Not what he knew. So I don't want to get that conflated. Because you're asking what, excuse me a second, sir. You're asking what he knew when he answered the question. The court's understanding of the question was not what he knew in its entirety, but what he knew that he could identify the person as being Miss Vincent. So go ahead, Cal.
Your testimony is on January 1st, you were aware that there was some complaints about True being allowed to believe in God or not.
The two main complaints that I was aware of, and the only two things that Miss Vincent discussed with us that night, was us being referred to as mommy and daddy. That was talked about in family court and addressed by Judge Miller. And more recently, which was her last visit, virtual visit with True, was when she misunderstood that and made a complaint about us not believing in God. Now, the night of the shooting, Miss Vincent never mentioned anything about sexual abuse or physical abuse.
Stop. That's twice. I warned counsel. Counsel warned you. She can step off. You can take her. Because I'm not having it.
Judge, can we approach?
Yes, you may. We call the case of the people versus Vincent. Counsel, take your answer. Take your
I'm
answer.
so sorry. Katie Rosmarski for the people.
Good afternoon, May I please honorable court, Karin Johnson on behalf of Miss Vincent.
Ms. Vincent, prior to what was a recess, I already had admonished counsel and told counsel that I was not going to deal with your outburst. I am not, ma'am, please don't. And I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. I let the first one slide, the second one, then that's when we took that break. I want you to be well aware and have my warning that if we have any more outbursts from you at all, that what will happen is you will then be precluded from this proceeding. We will put you in another location and you will watch these proceedings on video. You understand that?
I understand, sir.
Thank you. All right. Sir, I would just remind you that you are still under oath. Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Okay, sir, I believe before we broke, so it's your testimony that you first learned of the physical and sexual abuse allegations during a CPS investigation that occurred after the January 1st incident. Okay. Were you present during any of the video visitations that Miss Vincent had with her daughter True? And these visits, I believe, would occur once a week?
Usually, that was what was instructed by the court.
Right. So Ms. Vincent did have contact and the ability to view her daughter. You were not able to tell law enforcement what vehicle, if any, Ms. Vincent left in, correct? You weren't able to tell law enforcement or give them a description or license plate number of the vehicle, correct? Do you remember when you went to Ali Wright's home after the incident and being asked a second time who it was that shot you? No further questions, John.
Thank you. Any redirect?
If I may briefly.
You, go ahead.
The visits that the defendant was granted with her daughter, True, as of January 1st, those visits were just to take place virtually.
So, to clarify the date, I mean, I can walk you through how the visits, changed, but I just want to clarify, I want to answer your question correctly, so.
Yeah.
So the visits were virtual at that point.
Yes, and thank you for making me be very clear with my language. They had been virtual for a period of time leading up to January 1st.
Right.
Were they also supervised?
Yes.
By whom?
By a caseworker from Samaritan House.
Was that your job or your wife's job to supervise those visits?
No.
Your presence in those visits or your wife's presence in those visits, what was that about?
That was just simply to, so the visits were virtual, obviously, in our home. Initially, when they first started, we were just using a laptop. As you can imagine, having any 4-year-old in front of a laptop, needed some sort of assistance because she would, push the buttons, and there were a few times where she turned the computer off. So we actually tried to help and assist with the visits to make them successful. And so we connected the laptop to a television, so True could sit at a table with toys and snacks and have this virtual visit on the TV. Now that TV, privacy, my father upstairs in the bedroom, and as any responsible parent, you're not just going to leave a 4-year-old by themselves in a room for an hour. So whether my wife or I, we would be in that room to assist to make sure that the computer was turned off or there was something, going on that True was safe. When I did it, I would step into our bathroom, so she didn't have any sight because I didn't want to interrupt. My wife, when she did it, would sit off camera in a corner, trying not to distract her. And the caseworker was, as you mentioned, supervising, but was on the Zoom call from location.
But always there for those visits.
Yeah, so that's the way it started. When it moved from in-person supervised visits to virtual, it became problematic with those visits for various reasons, and there was a decision that was made. I don't know all that went into that decision from the foster care agency, but they made a decision that the caseworker would actually come to our house and have the visit virtually with True in her room. And so we were no longer, once those started, we were not, for the most part, a part of those visits, except when the caseworker couldn't come.
How long had that been the case before January 1st?
I believe it was so the last visit happened towards the end of November. And I think that that was the case probably for a month and a half, possibly 2 months. The visits were not always consistent.
I was going to ask that. Why not?
Because of Miss Vincent would cancel or not show up or show up late, and we get rescheduled. So it was a problem. We had several discussions with the prosecutor agency about how to improve and make that better for all of us. Yeah.
I think just one last issue. And it has to do with those 3 individuals entering your home that evening. You've talked about noises and you've described them. Was there any property damage? Tell us about that.
So there was, there's, the way I describe it is, we had, to fix all the property, there was several quotes from contractors. And then our insurance company had, did an evaluation and paid out, and the total amount that was paid out from our insurance for everything was $50,000. A portion of that was from just the cleanup. And there was significant damage to our floor, obviously from the gunshots and the blood. There were sections of our floor that were removed because of that. There was damage to parts of our cabinetry that had to be done. There was damage to going up the stairs, the railing. There was several things that had to be repaired in that. There was damage to the front door, the main door and the screen door. The screen door was replaced. There was had to replace the hinges on the door, and there was sprays of paint that I haven't even done that yet, but that needs to be repaired. And yeah, that was pretty. I mean, there's a list from the insurance company of all the details, but that's what I can recover. So the damage to fix everything, which didn't even cover the floor, but it was paid out of about $15,000 from the insurance company, but that didn't even cover the floor.
Specifically as it pertains to damage to those doors, the screen door and the front door, were those items, those doors, damaged in any way before that incident that night? Thank you. I don't have anything from.
Anything else?
No, yeah.
All right. Sir, you may step down. Thank you very much for your testimony.
And Your Honor, for clarity, may he be released from his subpoena? I believe he desires to leave.
All right. Any objection? All right, yes, you're released. Sir, take care.
Thank you.
We call your next witness.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jacob Kennedy for the people. At this time, the people will call Sergeant Jane Back.
Sir, please come forward and be sworn.
Officer, testimony. Say and spell your name.
James Basso, Jamesso.
All right, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, Sergeant Basso. How are you doing today? Where is it that you're currently employed? And how long have you been employed there?
I've been employed with Northfield Township for 5 years now.
Do you have prior police experience to before joining the Northfield Township team?
31 years of experience.
And in your capacity as a sergeant with Northfield Township Police Department, were you working on January 1st of 2025?
Was,
And were you dispatched to Noller Bend Drive?
I was.
That's in Northfield Township in Washtenaw County?
Correct.
Do you recall what time the dispatch came in?
Roughly 8:30.
Roughly 8:30? And do you recall what the nature of the dispatch was?
The caller stated his neighbor was on his porch and he had been shot in the face and in the chest.
And where did you respond from?
I was in the Eagle Garden subdivision, which is off East Shore Drive near Posey Drive.
And did you go straight to the address dispatched?
Yeah, it was a wintry day. The roads were kind of fairly snow covered, so it took me a little bit to get there just because of the condition.
Sure. And what address were you initially dispatched to? Do you recall?
I don't recall the exact address.
Would a 2039 Noller Bend?
Sounds correct.
And what happened when you arrived there?
Officer Diacono was treating, later identified as Jeff Bernard. He was talking to Jeff and giving treatment, medical care to him. There was some concern of other potential victims at the house, Jeff's house.
Okay.
So myself, a couple of Ann Arbor officers and some deputies went to the neighbor's house and left officers Diacono and Musser to treat the patient.
Okay. Before we move on, did you observe any injuries on Jeffrey Bernhard when you made contact with him that night?
Yes.
Could you describe those injuries to the court?
Yeah, I went into the breezeway, he was sitting in a chair. The right side of his face had massive damage. Eye was completely swollen up, very bloody. We had removed his t-shirt and then there was a gunshot wound to his chest.
And at that point, are you relaying any information to dispatch or relaying any information to?
We're sharing as much information as we're getting between myself and the other officers that were initially on scene. We were sharing information over dispatch. It's the quickest and the most efficient way to do it.
Okay. And you said, and then you traveled to another home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall the address of that home?
House directly to the east of that residence that we were at.
Sure.
I do not recall the specific numbers. No.
Okay. What, a 2053 Noller Bend?
Yes, that would be one.
And when you arrived at the home, was the front door of the home open or closed?
So the front door was closed. The garage door, the main garage door was open. The lights on were in the garage was on, as well as lights on within the house itself.
Did you observe any damage to the front door of the home?
No, we did not.
Could you describe to the court your entry into the home?
So once we had sufficient manpower and we waited for an Ann Arbor officer to get there with a ballistic shield where we had stacked up and made entry into the home. I had set up enough people to guard the exit to the garage to make sure as we went in one door, nobody was going out the other door. So we had some planning to put strategic people around the house to make sure as we went in. Once we got enough people, the front door was open, it was unlocked, closed but unlocked, and we entered in like a stack type formation behind the sheet.
And did you discover anything in the entrance of the home?
As you walk in the home, there's a hallway. There was a room initially to our left, which ended up being like a den or an office area. That hallway opened up into a bigger area with the living room on the left and kitchen on the right. As that hallway came in, we could see two legs kind of poking out on the floor into the hallway. As soon as we made entry, we saw it and we're like, we got somebody down, we see the legs. And that's when we continued down that hallway.
And at that time, did you know if there was anybody else in the home at all?
The only information we had was what we were relayed to us by Jeff, which was his wife was there and his father.
So what happens next?
We secured the one room on the left. We went into the kitchen area and we started to secure, making sure there was nobody in the living room. We went into the kitchen. Right immediately to our right, there was two sets of stairs, one that goes up and one that goes down. The Ann Arbor officers stood point there while I continued into the kitchen.
And when I walked through the kitchen, there was another body down the hallway that goes to the garage, just like right around the kitchen corner.
What did you do next?
I cleared that hallway. And then there was a pantry area to the left. I cleared that, and then I took point by the stairs, while the other officers went up and down and cleared the second story in the basement.
And at that point, did you check on the victims or were you still in the process of clearing the home?
Once we had made sure everything was clear and there was nobody initially was there, I checked both patients for any signs of life in their list.
At this time, I'd like to approach with people's proposed exhibits 6 and 7.
Yes, you may.
Approach. Thank you, Your Honor.
Start off with people's proposed exhibit number 6.
Sergeant Basso, could you please tell the court what that image is?
So that is the image of Mr. Smith on the floor. That is the position that we found him in. His legs, these are the legs that were protruding down the hallway. The hallway would have been running like that.
And were you able to determine where the gunshot was and
Once I checked him, I did not roll him over or move him in any way, shape, or form at that point.
Okay.
So I had no idea where he was shot at.
and he's in that photograph in a lying down position?
Face down on his belly with a large pool of blood coming from underneath his head, chest area.
Okay, perfect. I'd like to move on to the next exhibit, exhibit number 7. Could you tell the court what that photograph is?
That is the picture of Miss Bernard, the way she was as I entered the house.
And in that instance, were you able to determine where the gunshot was?
I did not move her, and I'm assuming it was her head just based off where the blood was coming from and her body positioning.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move for the admission of people's proposed exhibits number 6 and 7.
Any objection or voir dire?
No, Your Honor.
All right, exhibit 6 and 7 are admitted.
Did you then relay any information to dispatch at that point?
Yep, as we made in, every time we came across a body, we informed dispatch that we had a person down and we had a second person down. We also informed them that we were clearing the house with the initial search. We actually did 2. We did the initial one for adults.
Mhm.
We did a secondary one to look for any kids that were hidden because we knew that there were 2 kids in the home. We didn't know if maybe they were hiding in the home. That was still at an unknown at that point in time.
Did you locate any children in the home at all?
We did our secondary search, which was a little more detailed, looking in cabinets, looking into doors, looking into more smaller areas within the house where kids might be hiding.
And was that information relayed?
Yes.
And following the first and the secondary search, did you then secure the home?
Yes, at that point, once we knew nothing was in the home, I secured the front door. I posted up one of the other Northfield officers at that door, and then I closed the garage door to maintain the security from that entrance.
Mm.
I wanted one way in and one way out for anybody going into the home.
And did you remain at the home throughout the night or did you go somewhere else?
For the majority, but I was also once Detective Roberts showed up with Lieutenant Powell. We had enough. They were doing the processing of the house. I went to try to notify next of kin. I then eventually went to the hospital and interviewed one of the subjects that got arrested.
And just one additional question. Throughout either your primary or secondary search of 2053 Noller Bend that night, did you notice any bullet casings?
So once I made an entry into the kitchen, Mr. Smith was on the floor. As soon as you turn right into the kitchen, there's like an island with some chairs. And along those stairwell, there were 2 that I can remember, brass bullet casings, pistols. Pistol casings.
No more questions from you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross examination.
No questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Did you may step down? Yes. Thank you. May call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ellie Zend on behalf of the people. Your Honor, the people would call Deputy. Police Station.
Please come forward and be sworn.
I swear affirm testimony about to give the truth, no truth, and nothing but the truth. So we have to see, state, and spell your name.
Gabriel Bechtel, Gabriel
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Bechtel, where are you currently employed?
The one on Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been employed there?
Almost 3 years.
And do you have any prior police experience? Okay. And were you working in your capacity as a deputy with the Sheriff's Department on January 1st of 2025?
Yes.
And what was your assignment on that date? And what does that mean?
Just drive around the township, enforce traffic, and take calls and service.
Okay. And how long does that shift normally last for?
12 hours.
So would that be, when does it end? What time on this specific?
Start at 8 p.m. I end at 8 a.m.
So this would have ended on January 2nd at 8 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And on that date, were you in a patrol vehicle by yourself?
Yes.
And was it a marked patrol vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And on that date, did you assist Northfield Township Police Department with an investigation? What was the context of that investigation?
Metro East Dispatch advised that there was a shooting that just occurred shortly after shift change, so shortly after 8 p.m. And then one of our deputies, there was a name release, a possible name release, and one of our deputies saw that there was contacts with a house in our area in Ypsilanti Township. And I went to that house and sat nearby.
And do you recall where that house was, what the address was?
Oh,
And is that in Ypsilanti Township?
Yes.
Washtenaw County, state of Michigan? Okay. So you went to sit at that location. What happened while you were at that location?
I was sitting actually just west of the address at a park, where I could see the front of the house. And I was just waiting for any suspicious activity or vehicles to come and go. And then a black SUV pulled out of the driveway and turned and went eastbound on Lexington Parkway.
So pulled out of that 1201 Lexington address?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do after you saw this vehicle?
I then turned on my headlights and caught up behind the vehicle and to try to obtain a license plate. Right when I got behind the vehicle, it turned off into a driveway.
And
It turns out on River Road and right into a driveway, and I drove past it.
okay. And then what happened?
I sat down on the road a ways and houses down and watched for more suspicious activity. And then the vehicle backed out, went back northbound on Fall River, and then westbound on Lexington Parkway. So I called back up to the vehicle again, and it repeated its previous behavior and turned into another driveway. So I went past it, sat houses down, and then again reversed out, went back westbound Lexington Parkway, past 1201 Lexington Parkway again, then turned southbound on Glenville Ave. I caught up to the vehicle. It turned onto Rambling, I believe. And then it turned again onto Raleigh Court, which was a dead end.
Mhm.
And then I went past it again and just sat down by the baseball court where I could see the entrance of Raleigh Court on Glenville Ave.
Okay. And did the vehicle leave that street?
No, the vehicle never came back.
And at that time, did you observe anyone in the area?
and a black male came running out around the court, crossed the road, and then started coming towards my patrol vehicle.
And what did you do at that point when you saw him coming towards your vehicle?
I then drove towards him and I initiated my overhead lights and got out of the patrol vehicle speed.
And what happened next?
I asked why he was driving the car around with no license plate. And I asked why he dumped the car down around the work. He told me that he was.
Objection, hearsay, but this is what you're saying.
And we'll move on from what he said, Your Honor.
All right, very good.
So without getting into what the individual said, what did you do next after speaking with that individual?
Once I figured out that he was coming from Global One Lexington, I detained him.
Okay. And then what happened?
I placed him in my patrol vehicle. And then I saw a black female walking from Raleigh towards my location.
And who did that female turn out to be?
Siobhan Vincent.
And how did you know it was Siobhan Vincent?
She was identified by her Michigan SOS photo and date of birth.
Okay. Siobhan Vincent in the courtroom today?
Right.
Can you identify something she's wearing and where she's sitting in the courtroom?
She's wearing a gray jumpsuit.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that this witness has made an in-court identification of the defendant.
Without objection, record show so.
So did Siobhan say anything to you when you first encountered her?
When I first encountered her, I was on foot and she said that she was looking for her son.
Okay. And what did you do next?
And then questioned her where she was coming from. And she also stated 12-1 Lexington. And I asked for her name and she told me that her name was Ty.
And then what happened?
Then I went to detain her and she became uncooperative. I reached for her wrist, she pulled away from me. And at that time I had more units coming to the area because I explained that I was dealing with people that were possibly related to the shooting. And then one of my Deputy Hannah, while she was resisting and helping place her in handcuffs.
Okay. And after she was placed in handcuffs, what happened next?
Then I conducted a pat down with Deputy Hannah on her left side. I just patted down for weapons.
Did you locate anything? Okay. And after the pat down, or during the pat down, did she follow instructions? What was she doing?
She started bending over and trying to shoulder pain and wanted to stand up straight.
So what did you do after that?
After the pat down was done, I tried to place her in the back of patrol vehicle 72, and she was uncooperative and wanted to get inside the car.
So she was refusing to get in the vehicle? Okay. And after, did you get her in the vehicle eventually?
I did not.
Was she placed in the vehicle eventually by someone?
Yes.
Okay. And after she was put in the vehicle, what did you do next?
Like the frequency said, there was more deputies in the area at this time. Because I said that there was a car that was dumped down Raleigh Court, but they were unable to locate that vehicle. So then I walked over to Raleigh Court where the other deputies were to try to assist them with finding the car. That was what I believe left the abandoned Raleigh Court.
Did you find the car? What kind of car was it?
It was a black Honda.
Okay. And where was that vehicle at when you found it?
All in the first point of Raleigh.
Okay. And what did you do next after locating the vehicle?
Deputy Floyd did the approach the vehicle on foot. Where we then found two males inside of the car and a juvenile female with 3 dogs.
Okay. And did you ever identify who that child was? Who was it? Okay. And was Olivia removed from the vehicle? And were the 2 gentlemen removed from the vehicle? Okay. And to your knowledge, was Olivia supposed to be in that vehicle? And did you observe anything else in the vehicle?
While walking around the back of the vehicle after everybody was out of it, I saw a shotgun in the rear hatch underneath some like furniture or clothing, and I could see the stock.
Okay. So after clearing that vehicle, what did you do next?
I then went back to the original scene where I detained Vincent.
Okay. And when you got back to the original scene, what did you do next?
At that point, she was then identified, and we knew that she was under arrest. And we asked for a female officer to come conduct a full search.
Okay. And was Siobhan cooperative with the search, to your knowledge? How was she not cooperative?
Once the female officer arrived on scene, Officer Barici, we asked Vincent to step out of the car, and she refused to step out. And she was given multiple orders to step out of the car and search. And she eventually said, if the male deputies step away, then she'll come. So we stepped back, and she finally became stepped out of the car for a search.
Okay. And during that search, was she cooperative? Cooperative? To your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything located on Siobhan during the search?
Yes.
What was that?
Officer Barici located what she believed was a gun underneath Vincent's left armpit. She could feel like the metal, and she called out, saying that she thought she found a gun and for our assistance. So then he went hands on with her, and I grabbed onto her left arm. Deputy Hannah grabbed onto her right arm, and then Deputy Burton was able to pull the handgun out under her armpit.
So you saw the gun come off of Siobhan Vincent's person? Okay. And at the time that handgun was located on her person, approximately how long has she been in contact with police?
Approximately 30 minutes.
Okay. And when that gun was located, was it loaded?
Yeah.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Nothing further from people for this witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Deputy, when you first went to the location, it's at Raleigh Court? Is that the name of the street?
Yes.
Did you have a warrant for the arrest of Siobhan Vincent? Yep.
Lexington Parkway.
Lexington Parkway?
My first one there.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay. Did you have a description of the individuals that were allegedly involved in this incident at the time you first went there?
Briefly.
What do you mean briefly?
I remember that there was 2 males involved with U of M Michigan sweatshirts.
Okay. Did you have the height of any suspects involved?
No.
Hairstyle of any of the suspects involved?
No.
Okay. When you first observed this woman walking down the street, what was she doing wrong? Okay. So you got out and you then seized this woman who you see walking down the street that's not doing anything wrong, correct?
I have no question.
Well, when you got out, you cut on your overhead lights, correct?
Before she was. Yes.
Right. So you have your overhead lights on, but you're in the car, right? Correct?
When the male came across.
Right.
I was in the car, yes.
So you got out of the car, you've detained the male. The male is now in your car. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're back in your car.
No, I never got back.
Okay, so you're outside your car. This woman is walking down the street, and while you have your overhead lights on, you then walk towards this woman.
Yes.
Okay, and then you start to question her. Correct?
Yes.
At that point, she's seized. Correct? Right, because if she'd have turned and ran, you would have chased her. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you have this woman seized that you haven't seen do anything wrong. You start to question her. Did you Mirandize her before you started questioning?
No.
Before you searched the car or that you went with other deputies to find, did you have a warrant to search that car?
I didn't search.
Okay, you didn't search the car. Okay. And to be clear, when you went to handcuff this woman that you saw walking down the street, you hadn't observed her commit any arrestable offense.
I wasn't questioning her about it.
That's not my question. When you went to handcuff the woman that you saw walking down the street, who turned out to be Miss Vincent, you hadn't witnessed her commit any arrestable offense, correct? No further question.
Can you redirect?
Nothing for the people, Your Honor, for this witness.
All right, just so that I'm clear, Deputy, at the time of the search of Miss Vincent's person by the officer that was called to the scene, that was an Eastern Michigan University police officer?
Yes.
All right. She's not cooperative in terms of her search initially. And you were there. Was there a detective Hannah and a detective or deputy? Hannah and Burton also present at the scene while she was doing that?
Yes.
Okay, so there were basically 4 officers there while she was being uncooperative regarding the search purpose.
Yes.
All right. Any questions based upon the court questions?
Oh, Your Honor.
All right.
No,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. You may step down. They call your next witness.
Thank you. Call Detective Sergeant Roberts.
Please come forward and be sworn.
So your hands, please, so your knee.
Jason Roberts.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you. Sergeant, where do you work?
Northfield Township Police Department.
What's your position there?
Detective Sergeant.
How long have you been with Northfield Township?
I'm in 27th year
How long have you been a sergeant?
since 2018.
Same period of time being a detective as well?
I was a detective from 2012 to 2017 probably. And then got to go back to the road and then went from the road to detective sergeant position.
Sergeant, you've been here in court throughout the proceedings here this afternoon, correct? You are who we commonly refer to as the officer in charge of this case. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. What is the first thing that you did as a part of your investigation?
When I got to the scene, the first thing I started running a search warrant, I believe, for the Lexington address.
For Noller Bend or for the Lexington?
I'm sorry, well, for both. I did do Dollar Bend probably first, and then I did the Lexington address. I did search on both of them.
Okay. Did you at any point go to the Noller Bend home?
Yes,
Did you go inside?
I went inside, after MSP was done processing private just.
Okay. Explain to the court what that means about MSP coming to process for evidence.
Because of the type of crime scene it was, we didn't have the personnel or the experienced personnel to process that type of scene, the larger scene. So we requested MSP's crime scene unit to come in and process the scene for us.
So they did that exclusively.
Yes. At the Dollar Bend residence.
We've heard some testimony about some weapons that came up when deputies interacted with the defendant.
Yes.
Did you come into contact with those weapons?
Firearm, the search department. Later that evening, My security guard property.
What about the shotgun that we've heard reference to?
So on January 2nd, I executed a search warrant on that, on the HRV, also to the search department in their evidence garage. And I located that shotgun in the rear hatchback area of that HRV.
What did you do with it after you found it?
Both guns were secured into evidence for processing.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Sergeant, we'll start with people's proposed exhibits 8 and 9. Those are pictures, right? What are the pictures of?
Exhibit 8 is a picture of the shotgun as it landed back on the vehicle.
And 9.
Mine is a different angle of the same shotgun.
Did you take those pictures?
I did.
And are they fair and accurate representations of where that shotgun was as you saw it when you were processing that car?
Yes.
And now I'll hand you people's proposed exhibit 10. What is that?
It is a picture of a 9mm handgun.
Is that also a picture that you took?
Yes, it is.
What gun are we looking at?
This is the firearm that was taken off John Vincent, turned over to me.
And is that as well a fair and accurate representation of that gun as you saw it here at the TV? Thank you. Your Honor, this time I move to the admission of proposed 8, 9, and 10.
Any objection or voir dire?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibits 8, 9, and 10 are admitted.
Mayor,
You may.
thank you. I'm sorry, Sergeant, you said you did what with them when you're done processing that car and you've got those weapons?
They were secured in our police department, and then the next day, we went to double to Thomas Beaches, right, to their firearms investigation.
What's the purpose in taking them there?
Fingerprints, DNA. I've been testing for the handgun to match any possible shell casings found at the scene.
And there were casings found at the scene, correct?
There were.
When MSP comes to process a scene, as you requested them to do here, do they author a report pertaining to that?
They do.
Does it describe the things that they did there, the things that they saw, and the things that they take into evidence?
It does.
And as the OIC, in this case, you are in possession of all the lab reports that have been authored as a result of their work in this case, correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed those?
I have.
Okay. Before I hand those to you, let me also ask you this. When Mr. Bernhard was here testifying, he identified some pictures of some credit cards and then also some jewelry. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about those credit cards and jewelry and how they became a part of the evidence in this case?
Those specific cards and that jewelry was also turned over to me at the DV unit here at the Sheriff's Department. They were items removed from the 2 co-defendants in this case, Callahan and Finley.
We've heard testimony about Olivia being in the car in question with the 2 males. Did you hear that? We did not hear about True being in that car, correct?
Correct.
Was True found as a part of this investigation?
True was located at the Lexington address.
And we've also heard testimony that that Lexington Parkway address is somehow connected to the defendant, correct?
Correct. That is her mother's residence.
Her mother's residence. Thank you. What about the dog?
Dog was located in the car with Olivia.
And that's Snickers that we've heard about?
Yes.
Okay. Snickers is back home as well?
Yeah.
Okay. What about checks and or checkbooks? Did those play a role in this investigation at all?
So Mr. Jeffrey's father-in-law had a checkbook ledger with his name, I believe his church's name on it that I recovered on the floorboard in the backseat of that vehicle when I did the executed search warrant here at the sheriff's department on that Honda HRV.
So you're saying there was a checkbook of Stevie Smith?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Judge. And may I approach again, Your
You
Honor?
may.
Thank you. If I'm tracking my numbers correctly, sir, I believe we're on 11 and 12, and that's what I'm handing you right now, are people's proposed exhibits 11 and 12. What are those?
They are forensic reports from the Department of State Police.
They have your name on them, correct?
They do.
Okay. Do they have your incident number for this case as well?
They both do.
Okay, so they are lab reports that were generated pertaining to work done by the lab on this investigation.
Correct.
And they are record number 1 is people's proposed 11, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, record number 1 is because of the law.
Okay, and record number 3 for proposed exhibit 12, correct?
Correct.
Okay. As we've discussed, record number, strike that. Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of people's proposed 11 and 12 pursuant to statute as lab reports at pre.
No objection.
11 and 12 are admitted.
Thank you. As to 11, this is the crime scene report for going and processing the scene, as we talked about, correct?
Correct.
And it references in there, among other things, casings that were found and recovered and seized as evidence as part of processing that scene, correct?
Correct. They refer to them as fired cartridge case.
Thank you. I always get the gun on the phone. Now moving to people's 12. Are those fired cartridge, did you say cases? Yes. Are they also referenced in record 3?
They are.
As well as the firearm that we saw in the picture, the pistol that you took to the lab that was removed from the defendant, or I believe it was your left armpit, correct?
Correct.
And were those items compared to one another?
They were.
And is there a conclusion or a comparison to be drawn between all of the casings at the scene and the gun that was taken off of defendant's person?
They were identified as being fired.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Did you also come into contact with the defendant as a part of your investigation?
I did. I met her, I think it was in the county jail.
Was she in custody of that?
She was.
Did you interact with her?
I did myself and Detective Sergeant from the state police interviewed her together.
Why did you have somebody from the state police with you to do that interview?
It was, at that time, we had so many suspects and so much scene that one person couldn't possibly do it all. So we kind of divided the groups when what. I chose a female sergeant to interact with me with one suspect.
Did you or the officer that was assisting you advise the defendant of anything prior to talking to her?
The female sergeant, I believe her name was Katie, to look up her name. She did Mirandize Miss Vincent prior to speaking with her.
And were they the Miranda rights that you are familiar with?
Yes.
Okay. And did the defendant appear to understand those rights?
She did. She waived the rights and said she was speaking with us.
How long did you guys talk to her?
45 minutes to an hour.
Long time.
Yes.
Without going through all of it, let me ask you just several pointed questions. We've heard some questions asked and some information put on this record about child abuse allegations and sexual assault allegations from the defendant to the Bernhardts, correct?
Correct.
During that interview with her, Did she say anything about any of that stuff?
The only assault she ever mentioned during our interview was that she witnessed someone pushed her daughter at one point during a virtual visitation.
So that's all she complained about to you.
That they would not let her daughter say the word bullet. Yes.
Holy,
Correct.
you didn't cut her off or keep her from talking to you about anything, did you?
No.
As we've indicated, you're the OIC of this case. Are you familiar with really basically all of the reports, the documentation, all of the investigation that's gone into this?
Yes.
Have you come across any evidence to support the allegations that the Bernhardts physically or sexually abused True? Have you come across any evidence to support that those were allegations that even existed before she murdered two people in that home that night and tried to murder a third?
No, we did not discover anything prior to January 1st.
Again, condensing a long, lengthy interview down to just a little bit, but let me ask you, did anybody ask her, did you do this?
We did.
And what did she say?
She said that she shot them. She said whoever was in the house, she shot them.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination.
First Sergeant, you did participate in this interview, correct?
Yes.
And interviews have certain tactics, correct?
So,
Okay. And you're trained on interview tactics.
yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that the tactic you use in interviewing Miss Vincent was to simply ask her, a broad question and allow her to just talk, get her to speak freely?
She did speak with yes.
Okay. But that's what you wanted her to do, correct?
It hurt, yes.
Okay. Do you know how many times during the course of that 45-minute interview, Ms. Vincent said to you, they hurt my kids, you don't fuck with people's kids?
I can tell you how many times she did reference it. Yes.
She referenced it more than once, correct? Would it be more than 5 times?
I don't recall any times.
Did you ever ask her, what do you mean they were hurting your children?
I don't know specifically answer that question.
Okay. You are the officer in charge of this case, correct?
Correct.
There was multiple suspects being interviewed, correct?
Correct.
You were communicating with the other detectives during the interview to try and make sure you guys were getting similar information
I don't believe during the interview.
after the interview.
Yes.
And you looked at the reports of those interviews. Okay. There were other suspects that said Miss Vincent complained that they were abusing and molesting her children.
Okay. Is there a question on that?
Yes, that's the question. That is true, correct?
I don't believe, but I have to look at those reports.
Okay. We're looking at first, before today's date, would you look at the report of Detectives Russo's interview of Defendant Callahan?
Not recently.
Okay, but
I'm sorry, you mean Sergeant Vassos?
yes,
I've seen it, yes, but not recently.
okay. In that report, was that discussed with that suspect?
I'd have to look at the report to answer that question.
Right, young man, approach the witness.
You may, if that will refresh your recollection as to whether or not it's there.
I see that in the statement, yes.
did you check to see if Miss Vincent had filed any CPS reports or made any complaints to the CPS worker of this sort of abuse being done to her daughter?
We have spoken with Samaritas and CPS, yes.
Okay. Did you get any reports from those entities, either one of those entities?
I'd say hundreds.
Okay. No further questions, yeah.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Detective Sergeant. You may step now.
Your Honor, people have no further presentation.
All right. Witnesses for the defense.
None, Your Honor.
All right. Are you ready to go into argument at this point? Did you need some time?
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready, Judge.
Go ahead.
Prior to argument, I wonder if I could make an official motion at this time to add count 11 to file number 25F3-0011. That is count 11 of armed robbery. That's CL 750.529. Judge, I would like, if the court is amenable, to have it read identical to the co-defendants, which is did in the course of committing a larceny of money and or jewelry and or credit cards and or checks and or checkbook and or a dog, use force or violence against a person present and or assault or put in fear a person present, Jeffrey Bernhard, and in the course of that conduct possessed a gun, a dangerous weapon, contrary to statute.
All right. Very good. Any response to that at this point? Your adding of that count. I don't think she needs a formal motion, actually.
Right, if the court wants me to address up, I guess it'd be more efficient if I did everything at once.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you wanted to. I do need a fact code on what you're requesting being added.
750.529.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And then one other minimal amendment, if I could, that is on file number 25FB-1002. Count 1 is carrying a dangerous weapon with unlawful intent. And currently it reads, did with the intent to use the same unlawfully against a person of another, go armed with a firearm, to wit a shotgun. I would like that to read to wit a handgun.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay.
Judge, following those amendments, I would simply indicate to the court that by a burden of probable cause at a minimum, that there is sufficient evidence on the record here before Your Honor that all of those crimes as charged have been committed, and further, there's probable cause that your defendant committed those crimes. Judge, I get the argument about home invasion. I'm not going to belabor the court. The AWIM and the homicides, as if the eyewitness firsthand victim account isn't enough. Your Honor has Peoples 11 and 12 in front of Your Honor. That indicates that the gun that was found in the defendant's armpit is the gun that fired all of the shots in that home that night, matches the casings. So you've sewn up all of the shooting committed by the defendant herself. She took the kids. You heard the testimony. She had no permission and authority to take the kids. I think if there's a quibble in the charges on that case, it is the home invasion. Whether or not somebody allowed her access to that home that night, be it one of the children or Jennifer, as they were the ones that were standing by the door. But Judge, any argument about them being there with permission just fails, and fails utterly, in light of what Mr. Bernhard heard and was so eloquently able to articulate, which is he heard thuds and bangs, then immediately he heard screams, and screams of fear from his wife that he will literally never forget. Add to that some damage to the door, and I think circumstantially you have more than enough to find that they entered without permission, and then the rest of the count flows from there and is satisfied by Mr. Bernhardt's testimony. Judge, we simply ask that you bind the defendant over on all of the charges as originally indicated in the charging documents, and then also with the several amendments that I requested. Thank you.
Yes. Response.
Just briefly, as the home invasion, I think the record is clear. The witness presented by the people was not in the room when entry was made into the home. The court is asking, the government is asking the court to take what this witness's speculation as to what noises mean and accept that witness's interpretation, what those noises mean as to whether or not they got into the house with permission or not. We don't know, and the witness could not testify. Did those thuds and all that banging around, did that happen after they were allowed into the home and they were taking people or asserting their control over people or not? So based on this record, I asked the court to not bind over on home invasion first degree. Also, and I'm not, with count 8, conspiracy to commit home invasion, I'd ask that it be dismissed as well for the same argument. And first, there's a difference in aiding and abetting and conspiracy. And the conspiracy, requires that government prove, and at this stage, prove up upon the evidence that they unlawfully conspired, combined, or confederate or agreed together to commit these offenses. And there's no testimony on this record as to a conspiracy, even if the court believes that there's testimony record to support an aiding and abetting theory. There's no testimony record to support conspiracy. As to counts 5 and 6, kidnapping and child enticement, at this point, I'm gonna be honest, with the court, we want to object, just for the record. There's some issues that I think are present in that, in terms of did the government prove that they took the children with intent to detain or conceal, the child from, its lawful parents or guardians? If the record, and the record is clear that there was at least a belief by Miss Vincent that the child was in danger. And so we'd ask the court to not bind those over. And I think whether or not the belief or the court believe that the belief is reasonable or not, that may go to the murder counts. But as for the child enticement, and based on the fact that at least True was taken to the grandmother's house, based on the testimony, True was not in the car. We don't know what the intent was of my client in terms of who she was trying to keep True away from, if anybody. And I think the argument would go the same as to Olivia. Now, as to
okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You're saying that with reference to basically counts 5 and 6.
Yep, it's not just that I take the child. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No, go ahead. No, I'm gonna say I just.
It's not just that I take the child. I have to take the child with the intent of hiding the child from its lawful parents or guardians, and not even addressing the fact that clearly at this point it's the government's position that the parents, or the foster parents at least, are dead, right? So what do you, but still, even if the court finds that the killing, based on the record, was to facilitate the child enticement, if the court made that reach, whether or not you hide something from a dead person, I mean, I guess that's something we're going to have to argue about. But still, the intent in terms of taking the children, especially based on the fact that the evidence shows that at least True was taken to another location. I guess we don't know. I don't think that the government has proven what the intent was when Ms. Vincent allegedly took her child.
So true. I guess my question is, and I understand your argument, may not agree with your argument, but I understand your argument. You're saying that the argument would also apply to Olivia?
Well, at this point, Your Honor, there's no testimony as to who took Olivia out of that house. There's no testimony as to whether or not Ms. Vincent ordered that Olivia be taken out of that house. And there's no testimony as to what anybody's going to do with Olivia. So I just think that the record is, we're all operating under the assumption that Olivia was taken by Miss Vincent, and we're operating under the assumption that Miss Vincent ordered that. But there's no testimony to that on the record.
Okay.
And as to the other cases, the R&Os, Your Honor, I'd ask that those counts be dismissed, Your Honor. And the issue becomes, was there, at the moment that there was police interaction with Miss Vincent, was there probable cause to arrest? And based on the answers from the officer, I believe that answer at that moment was no. So at the time in which she is fighting or resisting or not obeying those commands, do not believe that there was probable cause to arrest her. And when you are trying to put somebody in handcuffs, that level of seizure is an arrest. And even if the police develop that probable cause at some later date and time, or some later time that day, they didn't have it at that moment, Your Honor, then we'd ask court, we don't believe they had it at that moment, we ask court to dismiss those charges.
Your additional response from the people?
I'm almost not even sure how to respond to the kidnapping argument, because what you have in front of you is 3 individuals armed with weapons coming into a home without permission, unannounced, and without lawful authority, killing 2 people there, trying to kill a 3rd, and taking the kids with them that do not belong to them. If that's not kidnapping, I don't know what kidnapping is. Judge, as it pertains to the R&Os, they're certainly nowhere near the most important charges on the charging documents. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. There's a concert of action that happens when investigations like this unfold. Deputy Bechtel knew exactly where to go, and that's because he had information from other law enforcement officers about an address that was right close by that was connected to the defendant. So he sat up there and he watched this car do all of this evasive maneuvering, and then an individual gets out that his suspicion is now already raised about her involvement for multiple reasons, to include that she's there at that address in the first place, and matches whatever minimal description he has about shooting, about a super violent double homicide, could have almost been a triple homicide. He has every right, nay, every responsibility to approach her and to protect the public and detain her until he figures out what's going on. And she resisted, pulled away, didn't respond and comply with orders on down the line in every way that she could resist. Are they the most important charges? No, they're not. But have they been satisfied by a standard of probable cause? Absolutely. And again, as for the kidnapping, Judge, I'm not sure how kidnapping gets more clear. You don't get to snatch people's kids, whether the people you're taking them from are alive or dead. Thank you.
All right, court's I want to take a look at a little bit more closely some of the defendant's arguments, particularly regarding the home invasion and the kidnap. So court's going to take about a 10-minute recess. I'll come back and keep in mind decision.
All right.
Maybe.
Given the stipulation that there is the predicate counts that would make Miss Vincent a prohibited person, and also given the testimony, the court would find that the people have sustained their burden and would bind the defendant over, in that case, on all three counts, dismissing count 4 as the people are not proceeding on that count. With reference to case 25 FB 1003, given the testimony in the case of the firearm being found on the defendant in her armpit, as well as the testimony of